I unlock the creaking door of my late father's house, stepping into a world frozen in time. Dust blankets the furniture, and the air is thick with the scent of old books and faded cologne. The silence is heavy, almost suffocating, as I begin to sort through the remnants of a life I barely knew. In his study, I discover a leather-bound ledger tucked away in a hidden drawer. Flipping through its pages, I find lists of names and staggering amounts of money owed. My chest tightens as I recognize some of the names, figures notorious for their criminal activities. A sharp knock interrupts my thoughts. 3 men in dark suits stand at the doorstep, their eyes cold and assessing. "We need to discuss your father's outstanding debts," the tallest one says, handing me a thick envelope. Inside are documents claiming that, as his sole heir, I'm legally obligated to settle his accounts. I argue that I had no knowledge of his dealings, but they point to obscure clauses buried in legal jargon. "Refusal isn't an option," another warns, his voice devoid of sympathy. Days blur as I grapple with this nightmare. Unmarked envelopes appear in my mailbox, each containing photographs of me going about my daily routine, at the cafe, walking home, even inside my own living room. The invasive surveillance sends a chill down my spine. One evening, the power cuts out. By candlelight, I hear footsteps outside, followed by the sound of a window sliding open. Gripping a kitchen knife, I search the house, but find nothing. The police dismiss my concerns, suggesting I might be overreacting due to stress. Desperate, I delve deeper into my father's past. Hidden compartments reveal documents linking him to an illegal network involved in money laundering and extortion. The more I uncover, the more entangled I become in his shadowy world. A car nearly runs me off the road late one night. Shaken, I realize they're escalating their threats. Seeking legal help proves futile. No one wants to challenge these dangerous individuals. "Pay the debts or face the consequences," a lawyer bluntly advises. Determined not to be a victim, I decide to fight back. Using the information I've gathered, I identify key figures within the organization. I attend one of their charity galas, blending in amidst the glittering crowd. Approaching the leader, a man with a veneer of charm masking ruthless intent, I make my move. "I have evidence that could dismantle everything you've built," I whisper, showing him a flash drive. "Let me go," and it stays buried. He smirks, unfazed. "You're bold, like your father, but threats won't get you far." His associates close in, and I'm escorted to a secluded room. "You have 2 choices," he says coolly. "Join us and erase the debt, or disappear like those before you." Feigning acquiescence, I agree to his terms, all the while formulating a plan. Over the next few weeks, I gain their trust, feeding them just enough to keep suspicions at bay. The weight of deception bears heavily, but it's my only path forward. Secretly, I contact a federal agent willing to listen. Together, we orchestrate a sting operation. The risk is immense. One misstep could cost me everything. The night of the takedown arrives. Tension coils tight as I lead the organization to a supposed deal. Hidden agents wait in the shadows. Just as the exchange begins, sirens pierce the air. Chaos erupts as arrests are made. The leader glaring at me, with venomous eyes as he's led away. Relief washes over me, but it's short-lived. Returning home, I find a single note on my kitchen table. "This isn't over. I know the road ahead is uncertain. There are others in the network still at large, and retaliation is a looming threat. But for the first time, I feel a sense of agency over my life. My father's sins are not mine to bear, and I refuse to be shackled by his past. As dawn breaks, I step outside, breathing in the crisp morning air. The battle isn't finished, but I'm no longer running. Whatever comes next, I'm ready to face it head on. The hum of the city outside my window is my only companion tonight. I glance around my small room, boxes still unpacked, remnants of a life appended. Sharing an apartment wasn't my first choice, but unemployment has a way of narrowing options. My new roommate, Alex, is polite but distant. He keeps odd hours, slipping in and out at dawn or late into the night. His door remains perpetually locked, and any attempts at small talk are met with brief, non-committal responses. I tell myself it's none of my business. We're just two people sharing space. One afternoon, a package arrives addressed to me. Confused, I tear it open to find photographs, dozens of them, all of me, walking to the grocery store, sitting in the park, even inside the apartment. A cold wave of fear washes over me. Someone has been watching, documenting my every move. Heart pounding, I confront Alex when he returns. "Do you know anything about this?" I demand, shoving the photos toward him. He glances at them, expressionless, and replies, "No idea what you're talking about." His eyes betray nothing, but his indifference feels like a slap. That night, my phone buzzes with an unknown number. A voice on the other end whispers, "Did you receive the package?" I ask who it is, but they hang up. Calls and messages continue, each more cryptic than the last, all inquiring about the package. Sleep becomes impossible. Every noise feels like a threat. Determined to uncover the truth, I start observing Alex. He leaves his room briefly one morning, forgetting to lock his door. Seizing the opportunity, I slip inside. The room is stark, a bed, a desk, and a laptop. No personal items, no decorations. On the desk, I find a list of names and numbers, mine among them. A floorboard creaks behind me. I spin around to find Alex, standing in the doorway. A mixture of anger and something else, fear? "You shouldn't be in here," he says quietly. Panic surges through me. What is all this? Why is my name on this list? He steps forward, hands raised. "It's not what you think." Before he can explain, the front door crashes open. Men in dark clothing flood the apartment, shouting orders. One grabs me, pulling me into the living room. Amid the chaos, I hear them accusing Alex of betrayal, mentioning an underground network and loose ends. Realization dawns. I've been a pawn, a decoy to divert attention from whatever Alex is involved in. My presence here was no coincidence. Fear turns to anger. "Let me go. I don't know anything," I scream, but my pleas are ignored. In the midst of the commotion, Alex breaks free and rushes toward me. "I'm sorry," he whispers, pressing something into my hand, a small flash drive. "Trust no one." Before I can respond, he's pulled away, and everything goes black as a bag is shoved over my head. When I come to, I'm alone in a dimly lit warehouse, wrists bound. The flash drive is still clutched in my hand. Footsteps echo, and a man approaches. "We need that information," he says, eyes cold. "Tell us the access codes, and this can end peacefully." "I don't know anything," I insist. He smirks. "Unfortunate." He signals to someone behind me. Anticipating the worst, I remember the tiny utility knife I keep in my pocket. Hands trembling, I start sawing at the rope. A loud crash interrupts the interrogation. Shouts and gunfire erupt. Authorities storm the building. In the confusion, I free my hands and scramble toward an exit. Outside, police cars surround the area. An officer spots me, guiding me to safety. Days later, I'm debriefed by law enforcement. The flash drive contains crucial data exposing a human trafficking ring. Alex was an undercover agent, and my unwitting involvement provided him the cover he needed. The guilt is overwhelming, but they assure me I was instrumental in bringing down the operation. Back in my apartment, the silence feels heavier than before. I begin packing my things, ready to leave this chapter behind. A knock at the door startles me. Opening it cautiously, I find a letter with no return address. Inside, a note reads, "Thank you for your unintended help. Stay vigilant." A chill runs down my spine. The shadows feel longer, the nights colder. I don't know who to trust anymore, but I refuse to live in fear. As I step out into the bustling city streets, I resolve to reclaim control over my life, whatever it takes. The aroma of fresh coffee fills the air as I step into my office, a sanctuary lined with law books and case files. Sunlight filters through the blinds, casting sharp lines across my desk cluttered with legal briefs. My phone buzzes, displaying an unknown number. Hesitating briefly, I answer, and a deep voice offers me the case of a lifetime, defending the son of billionaire magnate Robert Kensington, accused of a heinous crime. Meeting Robert and his son, Jonathan, in their opulent penthouse, I sense a desperation masked by stoic expressions. Jonathan sits quietly, his eyes distant. "My son is innocent," Robert insists, his gaze piercing. "I need the best to prove it." The weight of the case presses upon me, a chance to catapult my career, but with immense pressure. As the trial begins, I pore over every piece of evidence. Late one night, a sealed envelope slides under my office door. Inside, I find photographs and documents suggesting Jonathan's alibi is airtight. Surveillance footage places him miles away from the crime scene. Relieved, I plan to introduce this in court. The next day, the prosecutor, Emily Hayes, presents evidence that directly contradicts mine. Phone records, eyewitness accounts, all placing Jonathan at the scene. Confusion knots in my stomach. After the session, I approach her. "Emily, where did you get that evidence?" She gives me a tight smile. "Same place as you, I imagine." Back in my office, more anonymous envelopes await, each containing information that exonerates Jonathan. Yet, every time I present them, Emily counters with equally compelling evidence of guilt. It's as if someone is playing both sides, orchestrating the trial's outcome. Determined to uncover the truth, I start digging. I cross-reference the new evidence, only to find discrepancies, timestamps that don't match, signatures that look forged. My computer glitches, files disappear, and strange emails are sent from my account without my knowledge. One morning, 2 men in suits arrive unannounced. "You're under investigation for evidence tampering," one states flatly, handing me a suspension notice. Shock washes over me. This is a mistake. I protest, but they escort me out of my own office. Isolated and desperate, I reach out to a trusted colleague, Marcus, a tech-savvy investigator. Together, we uncover encrypted messages buried in the trial documents. A hidden network is manipulating both prosecution and defense, using the trial as a grand distraction. "Look at this," Marcus says, pointing to a news article about a massive corporate merger happening behind the scenes, unreported due to the trial's media frenzy. Kensington's company is about to absorb its biggest competitor. No antitrust investigations, no public scrutiny. The trial spectacle is keeping everyone occupied. Realization dawns. Jonathan's trial is a facade, I whisper. We're all being used. Determined to expose the conspiracy, I gather all the evidence. But before I can act, I'm arrested on charges of obstructing justice. In the holding cell, the cold seeping through the concrete walls, I contemplate my next move. An unexpected visitor arrives, Robert Kensington himself. He stands on the other side of the bars, his expression unreadable. "Why?" I ask, anger and betrayal lacing my voice. "You set me up?" He sighs softly. "Sacrifices must be made for the greater good. The merger will change the industry, and some collateral damage is unavoidable." His gaze hardens. "Stay quiet, and perhaps your situation will improve." Left alone, I refuse to be a pawn. During my arraignment, I request to represent myself. I expose the fabricated evidence, the tampered files, and the connections between the trial and the merger. The courtroom buzzes with murmurs as I lay out the conspiracy. Media outlets seize the story, the trial's focus shifting from Jonathan to the corporate scandal. Investigations are launched, and key players are arrested. Emily Hayes comes forward, admitting she was pressured to present false evidence. The charges against me are dropped. Standing on the courthouse steps, the glare of cameras and reporters surrounding me, I take a moment to breathe. The city's skyline looms above, a testament to power structures that nearly crushed me. Weeks later, I receive a letter without a return address. Inside is a simple note. "You made powerful enemies. Watch your back." I fold it carefully, placing it in my desk drawer. The fight isn't over, but I'm prepared. Returning to my practice, I take on cases for those who've been overlooked, determined to shine a light on corruption wherever it hides. The scars from this ordeal run deep, but they've also steeled my resolve. As I leave the office late one evening, the city lights flicker to life. The path ahead is uncertain, but I walk forward unafraid. The rhythmic sound of waves against the hull accompanies us as we sail toward the coordinates of the Elysium, the research vessel gone silent weeks ago. Seagulls circle overhead, their calls distant and eerie. The team is quiet, each person absorbed in their thoughts about the mission ahead. Upon reaching the Elysium, it appears untouched, floating serenely with no signs of distress. Climbing aboard, an uncanny stillness greets us. Equipment is neatly arranged, meals half-eaten on tables, and personal belongings left as if the crew vanished mid-action. The absence of life is more unsettling than any chaos would have been. In the control room, I access the ship's logs. The last entries detail the discovery of a deep-sea anomaly emitting unusual energy readings. Excitement permeates the notes until they abruptly stop. No explanations, no farewells, just silence. A colleague, Dr. Lewis, taps me on the shoulder. "Any luck with the logs?" he inquires. I share the abrupt ending of the entries. His eyes betray concern. "We should proceed carefully," he advises. We decide to regroup, but two team members fail to show up. A search ensues, turning up nothing. Radios transmit only static, and our calls echo unanswered through the empty corridors. Anxiety spreads among us like a contagion. Exploring further, I stumble upon a sealed lab. Inside, containment units stand empty, their monitors flashing warning messages about breaches. Documents reveal that the crew captured a specimen from the anomaly, a microorganism unlike any known to science, capable of rapid replication and inducing hallucinations. Realization hits me. The ship wasn't deserted. It was placed under quarantine. The crew must have initiated isolation protocols before succumbing to whatever they unleashed. I confront Captain Harris with the findings. His stern expression falters for a moment. "You knew," I accuse. He nods slowly. "Our mission is to secure the data and ensure containment," he admits. "Orders from higher up. At what cost?" I retort. "Our team members are missing." He averts his gaze. "Sacrifices are sometimes necessary." Outraged, I gather the remaining team. "We need to leave now," I urge. But the captain blocks our path. No one leaves until the mission is complete. Tension escalates as distrust fractures our group. Suddenly, the lights flicker, and an oppressive heaviness fills the air. Shadows seem to stretch and twist unnaturally. One by one, people start acting strangely, dazed expressions, unresponsive to their names. Dr. Lewis grabs my arm. "It's the organism. It's affecting us," he whispers urgently. "We have to get off this ship." Together, we make a dash for the deck, only to find the captain and a few others blocking the lifeboats. "You can't leave," he declares firmly. "Containment must be maintained." A struggle ensues. In the chaos, Dr. Lewis is pulled away, disappearing into the shadows. Determined to survive, I break free and sprint toward the last remaining lifeboat. Climbing in, I cut it loose just as the captain reaches the edge, his eyes devoid of empathy. As I drift away, the Elysium becomes a silhouette against the darkening sky. Relief is short-lived when I notice substances clinging to my clothes, a translucent film shimmering oddly. Panic sets in. Have I been contaminated? Hours later, I reach a patrol vessel. They quarantine me immediately upon hearing my story and observing the unknown substance. Isolated in a sterile room, I undergo endless tests while officials question every detail of the ordeal. Days blur together. Eventually, a stern-faced agent informs me that the incident is classified. For public safety, this information cannot be released, he states coldly. You are to speak of this to no one. They release me with a fabricated story about a failed mission and lost crew. The weight of the truth bears heavily on me. I know the danger that remains adrift at sea, but my warnings fall on deaf ears. Back on land, life is supposed to return to normal, but nothing is the same. Nightmares haunt my sleep, and every shadow seems a potential threat. Determined to expose the truth, I compile my notes, recordings, anything to validate my experience. One evening, an unmarked envelope slides under my door. Inside is a single sheet of paper. Stop looking. Stop talking. A thinly veiled threat. Fear grips me, but so does resolve. If I remain silent, the cycle continues, and more lives may be lost. I reach out to a trusted journalist, sharing everything despite the risks. The story breaks, but authorities swiftly discredit it, labeling it a hoax. Disillusioned, yet unwilling to give up, I realize that some battles are uphill but necessary. The ocean keeps its secrets well, but I carry the burden of one that shouldn't be hidden. As I stand on the shoreline, the waves whisper reminders of that silent ship and its vanished crew. The journey has altered the course of my life irrevocably, but I choose to face the uncertain path ahead, committed to seeking justice for those lost and preventing further tragedies. The scent of aged paper greets me as I enter the private archive, a labyrinth of history hidden from the world. Rows of manuscripts and letters stretch out before me, each promising secrets of the past. I've been granted the rare privilege to study the personal documents of General Elias Montgomery, a pivotal figure from the war era. Settling at an oak desk, I carefully unfold a brittle letter. As I read, a sense of confusion washes over me. The events described don't align with established historical records. At first, I dismiss it as a misinterpretation, but as I delve deeper, more inconsistencies emerge. Key dates altered, significant events omitted or twisted. Determined to understand, I cross-reference these documents with public archives. The discrepancies are too significant to ignore. I approach Ms. Caldwell, the head archivist, mentioning the irregularities. She offers a tight smile. Our documents reflect the true history, unfiltered by bias, she insists. Her dismissive tone raises red flags. Returning to my work, I notice subtle changes in the atmosphere. Staff members linger nearby, their conversations halting whenever I glance up. Surveillance cameras, previously unnoticed, seem to follow my every move. A creeping unease settles in. Late that night, I receive an anonymous email. They are watching. Trust no one. My heartbeat quickens. Who sent this? What do they know? You decide to dive deeper. Under the guise of needing fresh air, I slip away to a restricted section I spotted earlier. Picking the lock, a skill I picked up during fieldwork, I uncover a trove of original documents hidden behind forged ones. The true records paint a starkly different picture of General Montgomery. Accounts of war crimes, collusion with enemies, and actions that would tarnish his celebrated legacy. Footsteps echo in the corridor. I quickly photograph as many documents as I can before returning everything to its place. Back in my room, I piece together the extent of the deception. The archive is orchestrating a massive cover-up, and they expect me to validate it with my research. The next morning, Ms. Caldwell summons me. We trust you're finding our collection enlightening, she says, her eyes probing. We look forward to your publication endorsing General Montgomery's contributions. I still have much to analyze, I reply cautiously. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. We hope you won't delve into unnecessary avenues. It would be unfortunate to jeopardize your standing in the academic community. The threat is implicit. They're willing to ruin my career to protect their fabricated history. I reach out to Professor Langford, a mentor and respected historian, sharing my discoveries. He warns me of the powerful interests invested in Montgomery's legacy. Be careful, he urges. Exposing this could have serious repercussions. As I weigh my options, strange things begin to happen. My hotel room is searched, though nothing is taken. Emails vanish from my inbox. Strangers seem to follow me through the city streets. The pressure intensifies. One evening, an envelope slides under my door. Inside is a single photograph of my younger sister, unaware, walking to her car. Written on the back, "Stay silent if you care for her safety." Panic grips me. They've made it personal. I consider abandoning the project, but the thought of perpetuating their lies sickens me. Gathering my courage, I decide to go public. I contact an investigative journalist known for tackling corruption. We arrange to meet in a crowded cafe. As I share my evidence, I notice a familiar figure outside, the archive's security chief scanning the patrons. "We need to leave," I whisper. We slip out the back, but they're on to us. A tense chase ensues through winding alleys until we find refuge in a police station. Presenting our findings, we secure protection, and an official investigation is launched. The scandal erupts in the media. The archive is exposed for manipulating historical records to sanitize General Montgomery's image, backed by influential figures seeking to rewrite the past. Arrests are made, and Ms. Caldwell disappears without a trace. In the aftermath, my reputation takes a hit. Some colleagues distance themselves, wary of the controversy. Funding for my projects is withdrawn. Yet, I receive messages of support from those who value the truth. Walking away from the turmoil, I feel a mix of loss and vindication. My career may never recover fully, but I couldn't stand by and let history be rewritten. Integrity comes at a price, but it's one I'm willing to pay. As I leave the city, a message arrives on my phone. "You may have won this battle, but the war for the past is never over." I stare out the train window, landscapes blurring by, resolute in my commitment to safeguard the truth, no matter the challenges ahead. The city skyline glints under the morning light as I weave through traffic on my motorcycle. Another delivery awaits, a high-priority job with triple the usual pay. Without second thoughts, I accept the assignment. Arriving at a nondescript warehouse, a stern man hands me a small, unmarked package. "Deliver this to 1278 Maple Street. No detours," he instructs, his gaze piercing. I secure the package in my satchel and set off, the weight of it heavier than expected. Navigating the bustling streets, an uneasy feeling settles in. Something about this job feels off, but the promise of good pay keeps me going. Reaching the address, a modest suburban house, I ring the doorbell. A middle-aged woman answers, her expression puzzled. "Delivery for you," I say, holding out the package. She shakes her head. "There must be a mistake. I didn't order anything." Double-checking the address, I confirm it's correct. "Are you sure? This is 1278 Maple Street." "Yes, but I haven't requested any deliveries," she insists. Confused, I return to my bike, intending to call the dispatcher. But when I check my satchel, the package is gone. Panic rises as I search frantically, but it's nowhere to be found. Before I can process what's happening, my phone rings. An unfamiliar number flashes on the screen. "You think you can steal from us?" a harsh voice accuses. "I didn't steal anything. The package is missing." I explain, my heart pounding. "Find it, or you'll regret ever taking this job," the voice threatens before hanging up. I contact my employer to report the incident, hoping for assistance. Instead, I'm met with cold indifference. "You're responsible for that package. If it's lost, consider yourself fired," they declare. Left without support, I decide to uncover the truth myself. Retracing my route, I search for any clues. Hours pass with no sign of the missing item. As evening approaches, a black car tails me, its presence a constant shadow. Turning into a quiet alley, I stop abruptly. The car pulls up, and two men step out. Hand over the package, one demands, his tone menacing. I don't have it. It disappeared from my bag. I reply, trying to keep my voice steady. Not good enough, the other sneers. You've got 24 hours to return it, or there will be consequences. They drive off, leaving me shaken. Determined, I head to the warehouse where I picked up the package. The place is deserted, but a side door is unlocked. Inside, dim lights reveal rows of crates and a makeshift office. Rifling through papers on the desk, I discovered documents linking my employer to a smuggling ring. The package wasn't a simple delivery. It contained something illicit. A noise behind me makes me freeze. Turning slowly, I see my dispatcher standing there, a sly grin on his face. Didn't expect you to figure it out, he says, blocking the exit. You set me up? I accuse. Why? Needed a patsy to take the fall if things went south, he admits casually. But now you've seen too much. He lunges toward me, but I dodge and sprint deeper into the warehouse. Navigating the maze of crates, I find a back door and burst outside into the night. Running down deserted streets, I realize I can't go home. They know who I am. Seeking refuge, I head to a friend's bar that's open late. Bursting in, I explain everything to Lisa, the owner. Without hesitation, she locks the doors and pulls out her old revolver. We're calling the cops, she states firmly. As we wait for the authorities, headlights flood the windows. The smugglers have tracked me down. They pound on the door, shouting threats. Fear grips me, but Lisa stands resolute. Sirens wail in the distance, drawing closer. The men outside scatter as police cars screech to a halt. Officers storm the area, and I provide them with all the information I've gathered. In the aftermath, law enforcement uncovers the smuggling operation, arresting several key players, including my dispatcher. The package, it turns out, contained rare artifacts stolen from a museum, a treasure worth millions. A detective approaches me. Your quick thinking helped crack this case. You should be proud. Exhausted, I manage a small smile. I just wanted to clear my name. He nods. Understandable. We'll make sure these criminals are brought to justice. Weeks later, as the dust settles, I receive a call from a reputable delivery company offering me a position. They've heard about my ordeal and admire my courage. Standing on my balcony, I gaze out at the city lights. The experience has changed me, but I've found a new path forward. With a deep breath, I embrace the fresh start, ready to navigate whatever comes next. I wake to a barrage of notifications pinging on my phone. Groggily swiping the screen, I see messages from unfamiliar numbers accusing me of theft and deception. Confusion knots my stomach as I read through the angry words, each more threatening than the last. Pushing aside the unsettling start to my day, I head to my favorite cafe. The barista, usually friendly, avoids eye contact. Double espresso, I order, but she hesitates before preparing it. The people around me whisper behind their cups, casting sideways glances. An uneasy feeling settles in my chest. On my way to work, 2 police officers stop me. Mr. Thompson, we'd like to ask you a few questions regarding an incident downtown last night, one says firmly. I'm sorry. You must have the wrong person, I reply, my heart rate quickening. They exchange looks before showing me a security photo. It's unmistakably me, caught in the act of vandalizing a storefront. I was at home all night. I protest. They inform me that multiple witnesses have identified me and that my fingerprints were found at the scene. Panic rises as I struggle to comprehend how this is possible. They let me go with a warning, but insist I remain available for further questioning. At the office, my keycard doesn't work. The receptionist looks startled to see me. Human Resources wants to see you, she says quietly. In the HR office, I'm informed that I'm suspended pending an investigation into fraudulent activities linked to my employee ID. This has to be a mistake, I argue, but the evidence is stacked against me. Desperate for answers, I retrace my recent activities. I recall a networking event last week where a stranger struck up a conversation. He seemed innocuous, but perhaps too interested in my life. Did I let something slip? Returning home, I find my apartment door ajar. Inside, everything is meticulously arranged but feels off, as if someone tried to mimic my living space. On my desk, a USB drive awaits. Plugging it in reveals folders filled with personal data, bank statements, passwords, even a scan of my driver's license. A video file shows surveillance footage of a man entering various buildings, always with his face obscured. The build, the walk, it all mirrors mine. A chilling realization sets in. Someone is impersonating me, and they've been planning this for a while. I visit the police station to report the identity theft. The officer listens skeptically. Convenient story, he remarks. Frustrated, I leave, understanding that clearing my name will fall solely on me. Determined, idée deeper. Accessing my bank accounts, I notice transactions I never made. Bookings in hotels across the city, purchases of high-end electronics. Following the trail, I arrive at a hotel and persuade the manager to show me the security footage from the lobby. There he is, my double, confidently checking in under my name. I obtain a printout of the reservation and find an alias used for the booking, Alan Richards. With this new lead, I search public records and discover an Alan Richards with a criminal background matching the crimes attributed to me. Late that night, I feel eyes on me as I walk home. Footsteps illuminate. Turning a corner sharply, I press against the wall, waiting. A figure approaches. It's him. Seeing my own face smirking back at me is unnerving. Why are you doing this? I demand, stepping into view. He chuckles. Isn't it obvious? You've lived a life of opportunity, while I've been dealt nothing but hardships. It's time I took what's owed to me. You can't just steal someone's identity, I exclaim. But I already have, he replies smoothly. And soon, no one will remember you even existed. He lunges at me, but I dodge, adrenaline surging. We grapple on the sidewalk, evenly matched in strength. The struggle spills into the street where headlights blind us both. A car screeches to a halt, and bystanders start to gather. Help! He's trying to kill me, my imposter shouts. The crowd looks between us, bewildered. Thinking quickly, I shout, he's a fraud. Check his wallet. He's carrying my ID. A police car arrives, and officers separate us. We both present identical identification. The absurdity of the situation frustrates the authorities. I remember the USB drive in my pocket. I have proof he's been stealing my identity, I tell them. At the station, they examine the contents of the drive. Combined with the hotel footage and transaction records, the evidence begins to sway in my favor. Fingerprint tests reveal that my imposter is indeed Alan Richards. As the truth unfolds, Alan becomes agitated. "This isn't over," he snarls as he's led away in handcuffs. Exhaustion hits me, but relief is short-lived. The damage to my reputation, job, and personal relationships won't be easily repaired. Over the following weeks, I work to restore my life, but shadows of doubt linger among colleagues and friends. One afternoon, I receive an unmarked envelope containing a single photo, Alan Richards walking free from a courthouse. On the back, a note reads, "Looking forward to our next meeting." A mix of fear and determination wells up inside me. I realize that to protect myself, I need to stay vigilant. I take steps to secure my identity, change passwords, and monitor accounts closely. Standing by my window overlooking the city, I watch as the world moves on. My sense of security may be fractured, but I refuse to let fear dictate my life. If Alan resurfaces, I'll be ready. Stepping onto the sleek private jet, I adjust my uniform and take a deep breath. The cabin gleams with polished wood and leather seats, exuding luxury. It's my first overnight assignment on such an exclusive flight, and I can't shake the mix of excitement and unease fluttering in my chest. As I review the passenger manifest, a list of names without faces, I notice something odd. Despite the roster of high-profile individuals, the cabin remains empty. Puzzled, I glance toward the cockpit where the pilot, Captain Reeves, is prepping for takeoff. "All passengers accounted for?" I ask, attempting to mask my confusion. "Just focus on your duties," he replies curtly, avoiding eye contact. His dismissive tone only heightens my suspicion. As we ascend into the night sky, the silence becomes palpable. I move through the aisle, double-checking seatbelts that don't need fastening and fluffing pillows that won't be used. The absence of passengers turns the opulent space into an echo chamber of unanswered questions. Mid-flight, turbulence jolts the plane, causing the lights to flicker. I make my way to the cockpit, knocking lightly before entering. "Captain, is everything all right?" He taps the malfunctioning navigation screen, frustration etched on his face. "Systems are glitching. We're being rerouted to an alternate airstrip." "An alternate airstrip? Where?" I press, concern creeping into my voice. "Just to your job," he snaps, shutting the cockpit door firmly behind me. Returning to the cabin, I attempt to radio the ground crew, but receive only static. The intercom crackles, and Captain Reeves announces, "We'll be landing shortly. Prepare the cabin." Peering out the window, I see an unlit runway cutting through dense forest, a place that doesn't appear on any flight plan I've ever seen. The plane touches down roughly, skidding to a halt on the deserted strip. Before I can process the situation, the cabin door opens, and a group of stern-faced men board swiftly. Dressed in unmarked uniforms, they carry heavy crates labeled with codes and symbols I've never seen. One of them catches my eye and, noticing my apprehension, steps forward. "Remain seated and stay silent," he orders. My heart races as they load the mysterious cargo. The air is thick with tension, and questions clamor in my mind. What is this operation? Why am I involved? Summoning courage, I approach Captain Reeves as he supervises the loading. "I deserve to know what's happening," I assert, my voice steadier than I feel. He sighs heavily, a hint of regret flashing across his features. "You're in over your head. This flight was never about passengers. It's a covert transport." "Transport of what?" "I demand." He lowers his voice. "Classified materials. Things that can't go through normal channels." A chilling realization sets in. "So, I'm part of an illegal operation?" He meets my gaze. "It's best for you if you forget tonight ever happened." The men finish securing the cargo and disembark as abruptly as they arrived. As we prepare for takeoff, I notice one crate left ajar. Curiosity overcomes caution, and I peek inside to glimpse documents and devices that look government-issued. Returning to my seat, I know I can't ignore what I've seen. If this is a smuggling operation, I could be implicated. I consider my options. Confront the captain again, attempt to report this upon landing, or stay silent and protect myself. The plane lifts off, and the cabin lights dim. Captain Reeves makes an announcement, his tone void of the earlier tension. "We'll arrive at our destination on schedule. Thank you for your cooperation." I decide to gather evidence. Discreetly, I use my phone to photograph the crates and any identifiable markings. If I can get this information to the authorities, perhaps I can distance myself from whatever illicit activities are underway. As we begin our descent, the cockpit door opens and Captain Reeves steps out. "I hope you understand the importance of confidentiality," he says, eyes scanning my expression. "I understand more than you think," I reply carefully. He nods slowly. "Good. It would be unfortunate if any misunderstandings arose." The veiled threat hangs in the air as we land at a private hangar. Ground staff await us, their faces as unreadable as those who boarded earlier. I disembark quietly, the weight of my decision pressing on me. Over the next few days, I reach out to a trusted contact in the aviation authority, sharing the evidence I've collected. An investigation is launched discreetly, but I sense that shadows are closing in. Anonymous messages warn me to stay silent, and unfamiliar cars linger near my home. One evening, a knock at my door reveals Captain Reeves. "We need to talk," he says, tension lining his face. "There's nothing to discuss," I respond, standing my ground. He sighs. "You should have let it go. Now neither of us is safe." Before I can react, a van screeches to a halt nearby. Men emerge, and we're both pulled inside. "You couldn't leave well enough alone," one snarls. As the vehicle speeds into the night, I realize that uncovering the truth has led me into deeper danger than I ever anticipated. Sitting beside Captain Reeves, our fates now intertwined, I brace myself for whatever lies ahead, determined to face it with resolve. A narrow lane lined with ancient oaks leads me to the countryside inn, a place I'd hoped would be a sanctuary from the storm I'd stirred. The facade is charming, weathered stones, flower boxes under each window, and a sign reading Hartwell and swinging gently in the breeze. After weeks of threatening calls and shadowy figures tailing me, the quiet is a welcome change. Mr. Thompson, the innkeeper, greets me at the door. His eyes are sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Welcome. You must be Lisa," he says, extending a hand. There's a curious intensity in his gaze as he adds, "We've been expecting you." Inside, the inn is cozy but peculiar. Mismatched furniture fills the sitting room, and the walls are adorned with landscapes that seem slightly askew. My room is quaint, overlooking rolling hills and a dense forest beyond. Unpacking my laptop and notes, I remind myself this is just a brief respite before I return to unraveling the corruption scandal that had put a target on my back. At dinner, I meet two other guests. Mark, a soft-spoken man who mentions he's between jobs, and Elena, who skillfully deflects any questions about her profession. Mr. Thompson hovers nearby, refilling glasses and joining conversations with pointed interest. "It's rare to have such distinguished guests all at once," he remarks, eyes flickering between us. Over the next few days, more guests arrive, each with vague explanations for their stay. Conversations in the common areas hint at deeper stories. Hushed mentions of legal battles, corporate misconduct, environmental violations. It dawns on me that we're all whistleblowers or investigative types seeking refuge. One evening, I notice a door at the end of the hallway I've not seen before. It's locked, and when I press my ear against it, a faint buzzing reaches me like distant machinery. Later in the library, a flicker catches my eye, a tiny lens tucked among the books. Heighten camera. My unease grows. Why is Mr. Thompson so interested in us? That night, I decide to test a theory. Leaving a decoy notebook on the desk in my room, I step out and quietly double back to watch from a shadowed alcove. Minutes later, Mr. Thompson slips into my room, emerging shortly after with a satisfied look. Gathering the other guests, I share my discoveries. Suspicion turns to alarm as Mark admits he's noticed his belongings disturbed, and Elena confesses she's found similar cameras. We agree to leave first thing in the morning, but when dawn breaks, I find the inn eerily silent. The rooms of the other guests are vacant, beds neatly made, personal items gone. Panic sets in as I realize I'm alone. Rushing downstairs, I encounter Mr. Thompson calmly preparing breakfast. "Where is everyone?" I demand. He looks up with a placid smile. "They checked out. Urgent matters, I believe." I don't buy it. "What have you done with them?" His smile fades. "Curiosity can be dangerous, Lisa. You were safer before you started asking questions." A cold dread fills me. I back away slowly, intent on reaching my car. Outside, the gravel crunches underfoot as I make a dash for the parking lot, only to find my car blocked in by an unfamiliar van. The driver's seat is empty, doors ajar. A hand grips my shoulder. Spinning around, I face Mr. Thompson. "There's no need for haste," he says evenly. "You're among friends here." I wrench free and run toward the main road. The dense forest looms, but I spot a narrow path and plunge into it, branches whipping against my face. Behind me, footsteps give chase, multiple pairs. Heart pounding, I push deeper into the woods. Hours seem to pass as I navigate the labyrinth of trees. Eventually, I stumble upon a rural highway. A passing motorist slows down, and I frantically wave them down. Gasping, I explain enough for them to grasp my distress, and they agree to take me to the nearest police station. At the station, officers listen skeptically. Returning with them to the inn, we find it deserted. No Mr. Thompson, no van, no sign of any guests ever being there. The hidden cameras are gone, rooms stripped bare. It's as if the place has been abandoned for years. Days later, back in the city, I delve into records seeking any information on Hartwell, Inn, or Mr. Thompson. There's nothing, no business listings, no property records. My emails to the other guests bounce back, and their phone numbers are disconnected. A package arrives at my office without a return address. Inside is a single photograph of me taken from within the inn, and a note. Some truths are best left buried. I consider abandoning the investigation that led me down this path, but resolve hardens within me. If someone went to such lengths to silence us, then the story must be bigger than I imagined. As I prepare to publish my findings, including the bizarre events at the inn, a message pops up on my computer screen. Final warning. Stop digging. The cursor blinks, waiting for my response. I type back. I won't be intimidated. The screen goes black for a moment before my desktop returns to normal. Exhaling slowly, I know there's no turning back now. The shadows may be closing in, but I refuse to let fear dictate my actions. With renewed determination, I gather my notes. The truth needs to come out, not just for me, but for all those who've been silenced. As night settles in, I feel a sense of purpose stronger than any threat looming over me. Morning light spills through the curtains, casting a mosaic of shadows on my bedroom wall. Reaching for my phone, I expect a barrage of notifications from my activist group. Plans for today's demonstration, last-minute adjustments, motivational memes. Instead, an unsettling silence greets me. No messages, no updates, not even a single like on our social media posts. An uneasy feeling settles in my stomach. I attempt to call Maya, then Jordan, then Alex. All calls go straight to voicemail. Our group chat shows no activity since yesterday afternoon. Determined to find answers, I head to our usual meeting spot, a quaint coffee shop tucked between towering office buildings. The cafe's windows are dark, chairs stacked atop tables inside. A solitary flyer is taped to the door. Your fight is over. The bold letters stare back at me, taunting. I rip it down, crumpling the paper in my fist. This isn't a coincidence. I make my way to Maya's apartment nearby. Her name is no longer on the buzzer, and a different voice answers when I call up. She moved out. The voice says tersely before hanging up. Panic gnaws at me as I visit Jordan's place only to find it vacant as well. It's as if they've been erased overnight. Back home, I scour the internet for any signs of my friends. Their profiles are gone or stripped of content. News outlets report nothing unusual. Digging deeper into underground forums, I uncover whispers of activists being silenced through coercion, forced agreements to cease all activities under threats to their safety or that of their families. A notification flashes on my screen, an anonymous email with the subject line warning. I hesitate before opening it. Stop searching. The more you dig, the deeper the hole you'll find yourself in. A cold sweat breaks out across my forehead. Defiance surges within me. I reach out to extended networks, activists from other cities, anyone who might help. Responses are scarce and cautious. Fear has cast a wide net. One agrees to meet in person, a journalist known for exposing injustices. We sit in a quiet park, speaking in low tones. Others have disappeared too, she reveals. It's a coordinated effort to dismantle activist networks. Who's behind it? I ask. She glances around nervously. Private security firms hired by corporations we're protesting against. They operate in the shadows, using intimidation and worse. As we part ways, she presses a burner phone into my hand. Use this. Trust no one. That evening, I receive a video message on the burner phone. Grainy footage shows my younger brother leaving his school. A distorted voice narrates. Continue your crusade, and he walks into danger. My grip tightens on the device until my knuckles whiten. The stakes have escalated. They aren't just targeting us, they're going after our loved ones. I consider backing down, but the thought is fleeting. If I relent, they win not just against me, but the cause we all believe in. I devise a plan, contacting a trusted tech-savvy friend. Together, we work to expose the clandestine operations threatening us. We hack into secured servers, unearthing documents that tie the security firms to illegal surveillance, harassment, and abductions. As we prepare to leak the information to the press, a black van pulls up outside my apartment. Men in plain clothes emerge, their intentions clear. "They've found us," my friend whispers urgently. We escape through the back alley, adrenaline fueling our sprint through dimly lit streets. Seeking refuge, we hide in an abandoned warehouse. "We need to send the files now," I say between gasps. Using a portable hotspot, we disseminate the evidence to multiple media outlets and upload it to public forums. Minutes later, headlines begin to surface online. Activists silenced by corporate hired guns. Whistleblowers expose coercion and disappearances. The public backlash is immediate and intense. Under scrutiny, the corporations and their hired firms deny involvement, but investigations are launched. The pressure forces them into the light, and some of my fellow activists resurface, sharing their harrowing experiences. I return home cautiously, half expecting another threat. Instead, I find a handwritten note slipped under my door. "This isn't over. Watch your back." A chill runs through me, but it's tempered by a sense of accomplishment. We've struck a blow against those who believe they're untouchable. In the following days, new members join our cause, galvanized by the revelations. We establish safer communication channels, hold meetings in ever-changing locations, and remain vigilant. The fight continues, but now we know the lengths to which our adversaries will go. Standing amidst a peaceful protest, surrounded by determined faces, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. Our voices blend into a powerful chorus that refuses to be muted. The path ahead is fraught with challenges, but together, we are resilient. As dusk settles, casting a golden hue over the gathered crowd, I realize that fear will not dictate our actions. We push forward, not just for ourselves, but for the ideals we uphold. The silent protest has found its voice again, louder and more unified than ever.
Don't forget to subscribe. You are the best.